It's Thursday, October 24th, 2024.
Welcome to CBS Mornings Plus.
It's an honor to be with everybody, and especially this great Hispanic community. Okay, thank you very much.
Both campaigns are out courting Latino voters. We'll take a look at this increasingly powerful voting bloc.
It's time to talk about a tough but important topic, estate planning. It's something you can't afford to ignore, and Jill Schlesinger is here with what you need to know.
When did Playbill actually start?
1884.
Happy birthday, Playbill! You're turning 140 this year, and Anthony Mason is celebrating by pulling back the curtain on the iconic theater magazine.
It's a very simple question, but one that we've been pondering here at CBS Mornings Plus. Why do dogs lick? Is it a sign of love or something else? We'll have a very special guest on set, and she's a good girl. Squirrel.
Another fresh hour of CBS Mornings Plus. I have a theory, a personal theory based on no science at all for why dogs lick.
Oh, great.
But we'll see if it's accurate.
All right, we'll test your hypothesis
We'll
later.
find out. Meanwhile, we got a lot of news to talk about. Less than 2 weeks now until Election Day. Less than 2 weeks.
Wow.
Both candidates sending strong messages about one another. Let's start with Vice President Kamala Harris, who took questions last night from voters in a CNN town hall in the Philadelphia suburbs, including one question that addressed a recent headline about Donald Trump.
Do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I also believe that the people who know him best on this subject should be trusted. Again, look at their careers. These are not people, with the exception, I think, of only Mike Pence. These were not politicians. These are career people who have served in the highest roles in national security, who have served as generals in our military, who are highly respected. Talking about the person who would be commander-in-chief, not to mention what we know and what they've told us about how he talks about the military, servicemen and women, referring to them as suckers and losers.
Former President Donald Trump held 2 campaign events in Georgia, and there was a message you probably would not have heard from him in 2020. Go ahead and vote early.
So the polls are open for early voting in Georgia every day from now till November 1st. You got to get out there and vote, but most importantly, just vote. Whichever way you want to do it. I've been one that says, whichever way, just get out and vote. Be a little careful, make sure your vote gets counted. There are ways of doing that too.
Did you catch that last part, leaving a little bit of room to doubt the election results given the early votes, which a lot of people heard?
I will never forget being right in the studio in 2016, middle of the night. Donald Trump takes the stage and says, we were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election, or 2020, throwing things in a whole new direction.
All right, next we have a disturbing story out of Arizona. A man is under arrest this morning, accused of shooting at a Democratic Party campaign office in the city of Tempe. 60-year-old Jeffrey Michael Kelly was arrested on terrorism charges. Police say Kelly had more than 120 guns and 250,000 rounds of ammunition in his home. They say he may have been planning a, quote, mass casualty event. His attorney says Kelly is a retired aerospace engineer with no prior record and legally owned his firearms.
That is a lot of guns and a lot of ammo. Our next story, big implications for the American economy. Striking workers at Boeing voted to reject the company's latest offer, rejecting a deal, by the way, that included a 35% wage hike and increases in health and retirement contributions as well. The major sticking point for workers remains the loss of their traditional pension plan. Boeing has declined to comment on this vote. It was revealed the company lost more than $6 billion in the last quarter.
And we have a disturbing update in the war in Ukraine. The U.S. and NATO say they have confirmed that troops from North Korea have started training with Russian forces. Officials with the Biden administration said yesterday at least 3,000 soldiers are already in Russia, and there are concerns they could soon be on the battlefield. Joining us now to break this all down is someone who spent a lot of time covering this very war, CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata. Charlie, good morning. Russia and North Korea have become increasingly close, but what does this signal about their relationship?
Oh, it really shows that they've taken their relationship to the next level, and it is worrying. The defense secretary described it as very worrying. But they actually formalized their military alliance around 5 months ago. And the North Koreans have been supplying the Russians with munitions, mostly in terms of hundreds of thousands of artillery shells, some air defenses, a small amount of personnel to help run them. And that's been happening for months. And the South Koreans have been raising the flag about this days ago, in fact, weeks ago, saying thousands of commandos have gone to Russia for training. And they've been given Russian uniforms and equipment to blend in. Zelensky has warned there may be more than 10 to 12,000 troops on the way.
The concern is, I guess you could say the number, but really it's also just the alliance and the degree of the help. You've been on the ground in Ukraine. You've covered that war extensively. If these troops from North Korea do go to the front lines, is that a difference maker or is it just symbolic?
No, really, Tony, in terms of numbers, this isn't going to dent the amount of troops that Russia needs. You know, by some estimates, they've lost 650,000 casualties. That includes the dead and the wounded. 3,000 isn't going to make a big deal. I've spoken to people here and asked them that question. They said it really depends on what they're going to be tasked to do. Like, if they're elite commando units and they'll be saved to do those jobs, that may be one thing. But if they're pushed to the front line like other foreign fighters and mercenaries, they'll just become cannon fodder like other soldiers have done. Symbolically, it is important because of the relationship between Russia and North Korea, because this is a two-way street. You got to ask yourself what the North Koreans are getting out of this deal. So it really will depend on how they deploy, if, apparently, again, we have to say that. We haven't got confirmation yet that they're going to the front lines. But if they deploy, it's how they deploy and what they're going to do once they're there.
Yeah, and one of the things they might get in return from Russia is advanced equipment and software, which they want to boost their nuclear program. I mean, who knows what's really behind this? But, Charlie, what have Ukraine's allies said they might do, if anything, as a counteraction to this move?
Well, first of all, and this is important, the South Koreans, again, you know, sworn enemies, the South Koreans have been providing Ukraine with some material support. Now they say they might be providing them with lethal support. So now you've got South Korean weapons against North Korean soldiers. That's obviously a concern. Kirby said yesterday, National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said yesterday, they are legitimate targets. So now we have a situation where you may have North Korean soldiers targeted, getting killed on the battlefield of Ukraine. NATO has said that this is an escalation. It's a concern. So now we've got so many more parties involved in this fight that's going on inside Ukraine.
It gets more and more complicated. Charlie D'Agata, thank you.
An update now on the E. coli outbreak tied to McDonald's. At least 5 McDonald's restaurants in the U.S. have now stopped selling quarter pounder. 1 in 5, a very big number, in fact, after the CDC warned that the fast food chain's popular burger could be linked to E. coli. The company said that sliced raw onions, or slivered as they call them, may be what made dozens of customers sick, 10 hospitalized. If indeed it is the onions that are the source, a McDonald's spokesperson said it would be the first time onions have been a carrier for this strain of E. coli. And here's something else to worry about. A CDC official said, quote, they fully expect to see more cases.
And today we are remembering an inspirational woman who was known for her athletic feats in her second century of life. Julia Hurricane Hawkins died at 108 years old this week. In 2017, Hawkins was 101 when she became the oldest woman to compete in the National Senior Games and in the 50 and 100-meter dash events. 2 years after her debut, she broke records, running faster than the winners of the 94 and 99 age brackets. Our David Begno was there when Hawkins became the first American to establish a 105-plus age group track record.
Wow.
Okay, one question apiece.
You want to do it again?
Yeah. Right now?
No. How about at 106? Do it again?
Maybe so. Who knows? See how I feel when I get up in the morning.
Deal.
I get a kick out of these age brackets I have here, like 94 to 99. It would be unfair to have a 92-year-old run against a 94-year-old.
I actually think It would be unfair. There's probably a huge difference between those.
At a certain point, you're dealing with the same things. It's not like an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old. But
true.
I digress. As I want to do. All right, we're going to move on. Tell you about a little bit of a tease here. Recent polls have shown that Democrats are losing key support from a very key demographic. So what does it tell us about the larger picture in our nation's politics? We're going to take a closer look at that coming up in a moment.
When Donald Trump came down that escalator 9 years ago and referred to Mexican immigrants as, quote, rapists and drug dealers, you wouldn't be crazy for assuming that his path to Latino votes would be quite the uphill climb. But the Latino voting bloc isn't a monolithic bloc at all. And now, in yet another campaign full of anti-immigrant rhetoric, Latino Trump voters might actually swing this election. By the way, this shouldn't be surprising. Yes, Democrats still take a majority of the Latino vote. In 2016, they won about 68% of Hispanic voters, according to the New York Times. But Democratic support among Latinos slipped to 62% in 2020, and now it hovers around the mid-50s range. And that has some Democrats hitting the panic button and Republicans cheering. And you can understand why. Latinos are the largest minority group in the U.S. and one of the fastest growing. So despite all the terms that group them together, they're incredibly diverse with ties to more than 20 countries and territories, an intricate mix of identities and politics. It's complicated. Está complicado, which is why, for example, did you like that, Tony?
I did. Thank you. I knew that one.
That was a translation for you. Which is why most Mexican and Puerto Rican Americans favor Vice President Harris, but most Cuban Americans prefer Donald Trump. And let's linger for a second on the American part of those identities. Millions of Latino families are generations deep in this country. And indeed, a recent Pew survey found that nearly 1 in 5 Latino Americans say they primarily identify as simply American. So the question is, how do the campaigns navigate the Latino electorate, and how much sway will Latinos have on Election Day?
Here's a preview. It's going to be a big amount of sway here. We're going to talk about it with a CBS News political analyst and Republican strategist, Leslie Sanchez. Leslie, thank you very much for being here. I'm so glad that Adriana did that breakdown, because we talk about the Latino vote or the Hispanic vote as though it's just one block of people. And it is so diverse and so interesting and very hard to predict how they're going to vote. What do we know at this point about how Latino voters overall could swing the election?
I love that breakdown, too, in terms of the diversity of locations. So geography is driving a lot of these shifts. If you look at Texas, for example, in 2020, Donald Trump was able to win some of these blue districts and precincts that were along the U.S.-Mexico border by 55 points. It was a swing you hadn't seen in 100 years. And people thought, that's such an anomaly. Is it just Donald Trump related? And actually, we found it's economic related. As more and more Latinos, particularly Mexican-American men, were moving into the middle class, they were much more concerned about the economy, the rising cost, inflation impact, and border security. Donald Trump has leaned into that Hispanic shift, and you're seeing this spread like wildfire, not only in red states like Texas, but across those Sun Belt states, why Arizona is competitive, Nevada, North Carolina, and that's going to be the big predictor and why the Democrats are really sounding the alarm.
Well, there is this narrative that Latinos care most about immigration, and the polls show time and time again that's simply not true. Like you said, the economy is number 1, healthcare is number 2, violent crime is number 3, 4 is gun policy, and then immigration is ranked 5 in a recent survey. So how do you think Donald Trump is capitalizing off that? And what is Harris trying to do to win over some of the Latino voters that she's lost? I mean, Latinos went for Barack Obama by 70% in 2012, and now it's down to the mid-50s.
Absolutely. You've seen a 29-point drop if you look historically since 2012. And the Democrats are like, well, what does that mean? So there's 2 things to break down. One, Republicans don't need to win the Latino vote, but this is the first time in 40 years they're competitive. And the changes, economic and political dynamics, and people would say a realignment. The country's angry. There's not one party in control. There's a lot of intensity around that.
And you say there's a 40-year cycle that happens?
About every 40 years, political scientists will come and say there's a big political realignment. Last one you saw was 1980s, when you saw the southern states, and it was the country pretty much went 50-50. Now there's this new one with working class voters, non-Hispanic, white, and Latino, and you could argue African-American men as well. Anybody in that working class, that growing middle class, feels left behind. They're disconnected, they're upset, and if you think about Trump's messages, he's leaning into that economic dissatisfaction with the Biden administration or with the Biden policies, and that's where the opportunity arises.
So I got really into this topic, and I looked up the exit polls from the 80s. Reagan is thought to have gotten about a third of Hispanic voters, but then he gave a speech where he said they're all actually Republicans. They don't realize it yet, but they're socially conservative. They care about security. And now it seems like Donald Trump's capitalizing on that, and he's benefiting from the fact that this population just keeps getting bigger. I was really struck by the fact that there's been 4 million new eligible Latino voters since 2020 alone. Talk about just the scale.
It's just astounding. In the last few years, it has doubled in terms of the number of Latino registered voters on the right and the left. So what's going to change? You've got new voters, right, who don't follow the legacy of their parents. You could argue the Cuban-American population in Florida, South Florida, they're not like their grandparents. They have their own kind of economic ideas. Second, you have more second, third, fourth generation across that Sun Belt and moving through the Midwest. Their sensibility is a lot more like what you talked about. They consider themselves Americans, just like Eastern European immigrants. We're American, we see it as American, and the strains on the economy, whether our community is small or large, rural or urban, is the same.
Like it's said a lot in South Texas, as you know, from Corpus Christi. A lot of people say, we didn't cross the border crossed us. So people feel deeply American in a lot of Latino communities. So what does each campaign need to do to target these Latino voters, the few of them that can still be persuadable?
The dividing line is going to be interesting. What I'd be watching is Donald Trump going to reach over that 40%? If he's 40%, or actually any Republican candidates hit that low 40s, it's going to be making a difference. And he's talking about it: immigration, rising prices, border security. On the Harris side, it's turning out a lot of those urban areas, particularly Latinas. That's the growth and the steadfast nature of the Democratic Party in the urban centers: healthcare, economy, gun violence, and to some extent immigration.
All right, we
so
shall
interesting.
see.
I feel entirely enlightened. Leslie Sanchez, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Great to see you.
Thanks for being here.
All right, still ahead, calling all Broadway fans. Playbill is marking a major milestone this month, and our Anthony Mason is taking us inside the printing plant where all the magic happens. Plus, old school flip phones, are they making a comeback? I want one. We're looking at, I really want one. Why some people want to ditch their smartphones. Why we do. Stick around. In today's Money Watch, we are covering a difficult but very important topic: estate planning, a.k.a. what happens to your stuff when you die. The number of Americans with a will laying out those details has decreased by 6.6 percentage points from last year, even though a majority of people still say, yeah, having a will is important. Make it a priority then, people. CBS business analyst Jill Schlesinger is here with what you need to know to get going. All right, Jill. So this is a lot of hard conversations and hard thinking for people to go through. How do they start?
Well, first of all, it happens to be National Estate Planning Awareness Week right now, so it's a perfect time to start. Look, I know that this is hard. This is emotional. It's like the trifecta of bad things. You have to talk about death, illness, and money all together. But if you don't do it, there are bad things that can occur. And we want you to understand that this is about your wishes. So having these conversations, you can start by saying, hey, Mom, Dad, I saw this amazing segment on CBS Mornings Plus.
Use me as an example.
And use me as an example. Or you might even be able to say, hey, we did our own estate plan. How do we do this? Or if you're having a hard time with a sibling or an adult child, talk about your own experience and talk about how doing this, having some actual proactive thinking around this topic, gives you control about a thing that you are so out of control over.
What's your advice for parents or older Americans who might be concerned about doing this because they don't want to create conflict among their descendants, their kids who might be fighting over stuff or saying, so-and-so's a healthcare proxy, what about me? I'm asking for a friend.
Oh, yeah, asking for a friend. So here's what you need to know. Not doing anything, that's the cause of the conflict. That is what actually brings families to their knees. So what you want to do is have open and honest conversations. You want to communicate your plan, and you really want to be able to say, hey, you know what, Tony, you're the guy who's going to be able to actually execute my wishes. Not everybody's going to be able to pull my plug. You're the one who's going to do that. Adriana, you're the organized one. I want you to be the person who's the executor. And not everything has to be even Steven. You have to create documents that reflect your wishes, but also understand who these people are in your family and what roles they can provide.
For a lot of people, the idea of having an estate, they're like, I don't have an estate, I don't have horses. What are you talking about?
Right.
So they don't have a lot of money to throw at this problem, and they may not think they have a problem in the first place. How do they start and do it cheaply?
Well, first of all, you only need 3 documents. A will is basically, here's what happens to my stuff when I die, and this is to whom it goes. If you have minor children in the planning process, you're going to name a guardian. This is vitally important.
Okay.
Can you imagine if you don't do this? Then the state decides where your stuff goes and where your kids
Yikes.
go. Okay, next. You have a durable power of attorney, and you have a healthcare proxy. And these documents are very easy. A durable power of attorney is someone's going to act as my agent to conduct business things. This can be responding to an IRS inquiry. It could be taking money out of the bank. A healthcare proxy is assigning someone the right to make a healthcare decision on your behalf if you're not able to do so. So people get freaked out. Why should I go to a big, expensive estate attorney? Don't. Fine.
Okay.
Go online. Get the documents done. But if there are any complications in your life, a second marriage, maybe you've got a small business, maybe there is a child who is a special needs child who will need a separate kind of arrangement, you must go to an attorney. And please, gang, I know it is money, but it is so important. If you die without a will, this causes havoc in a family. This is a problem. I just settled 2 estates in the last 2 years for a friend and for my mother-in-law. One was all tidy and perfect. The other one, not so much. The not so much one, it caused a lot of pain, a lot of work. And you know what? It was like a year and a half later, I was like, oh, maybe I'll actually have time to grieve for my friend because now I've stopped actually settling the estate. So get this done.
And it's good to know that there are do-it-yourself options online.
Yeah, there
Absolutely, absolutely.
You can write in Jill Schlesinger as your power attorney, even if you don't know her.
No, never,
Put it in there.
Only blood relatives in the future.
Thank you very much, Jill. Appreciate it. If you have a money-related question that you'd like Jill to answer, you can send an email to askjill@cbs.com, and she could answer it in an upcoming segment.
Ahead, our morning's memory. Have you heard of the term Google ganger? It was big in 2007, and we can still do it today. That's next on CBS Mornings
Plus. I think you're probably at least faintly familiar with the term doppelganger, where 2 people look very similar. Have you heard of a Google ganger? That is apparently when a person, you and another person, are searched on Google, you have the same name, and the results can be confusing. It leads to an unlikely friendship in some rare occasions, though. So check out this CBS report on this day, 2007.
Another Matthew Slutsky, and I was, immediately felt drawn to this guy because we share the same name, and it's an unusual name. We talk every couple weeks. How's the family? He's almost part of my family now. My mother actually contacted him as well and said, hey, I'm Matthew Slutsky's mother. So it's really a family affair now.
You might find you've got 1, 2, or even 10 Google gangers, but that can lead to confusion. Which one is really you?
I love this, Google gangers. Do you have a Google ganger?
My last name is very unusual. I don't think there's any other Tony Dokoupil in the entire United States.
All right, I have one, and she's a table tennis pro.
Whoa.
Yes. All right, guys, we'll be right back.
A pro?
Yeah. It is time for Tortoise Thursday, a mandate from our executive producer, Shauna Thomas. Shauna, I'm talking about you right there. This week's edition comes from the Memphis Zoo, where the tortoises are getting into the Halloween spirit by chomping on some pumpkin. This guy's name is Hagrid, and he's an Aldabra tortoise. Aldabras are native to the Seychelles Islands and can weigh up to 550 pounds. And Tony, Hagrid's likely going to outlive us all because this kind of tortoise lives to be about 150 years old.
I mean, I'm interested, but someone's going to have to explain to me the tortoise fascination at some point. But for now, I'll just go ahead and move on.
There's no explaining needed. They're adorable. I agree with this, Shauna.
All right, from tortoises to our furry and fun 4-legged friends. Skipper here, the pup. Ever wondered why your dog licks you, licks everyone else, maybe even barks in a particular way, has a variety of barks? Well, our next guest, Dr. Horowitz, has dedicated her life to studying questions like this and what it's like to be a dog. Dog cognition is her area of research. She's a best-selling author of the book, The Year of the Puppy, How Dogs Become Themselves. I'm really excited about this. You're going to join us in just a moment with all of your burning questions on dog life. And also, did I mention, we've got Skipper here. What a good boy.
Skipper's actually a girl.
She's a good girl.
Dr. Horowitz, good morning. So you're here to talk about the burning question we've had, which I feel like came from Tony's brain, which is why dogs lick. What do we know about that based on their ancestry?
It's a great question. I mean, it is wise to look at the ancestors of dogs. Today's wolves were descended from a wolf that dogs were as well. And if we look at their licking behavior, it tells us something. So when wolves go off and hunt and return to the pack, all the other wolves mob that returning wolf and lick around their face. And the reason they do that is they're asking the wolf to regurgitate a little bit of what they just hunted.
Like a bird?
Yeah, well, probably not a bird, maybe a deer, a moose, whatever it is. So your dog's lick of you when you come home is absolutely a greeting. You know, they're happy to see you, but also is a little bit of a request for whatever you just ate.
For a little bit of puke, okay.
Yeah, they wouldn't be unhappy.
What about the little bark? The bark of maybe they heard something, the bark of hello.
Yeah.
What do these different barks mean?
That's astute. A lot of people think barks are all just one noisy sound, but they have different barks that have different meanings. There's a bark of attention getting, right? You're not paying attention, they need to go out, the ball's under the couch. There's a bark of I'm by myself, the bark heard around New York City neighborhoods of dogs who are alone. There's a play bark. All those are different, and there are probably several other barks that humans have not deciphered. But they bark probably to communicate with us. Wolves don't bark.
So a lot of humans...
Interesting.
That is interesting. A lot of humans, so maybe they develop that as we become closer as species. But a lot of humans, myself included, who have dogs, shout out to my dog Lava, I love you, think that they understand dogs, that dogs communicate. Oh, there she is, that's my girl. Look, Dr. Horowitz, did you see her? She's so cute. Anyway, they think that dogs communicate back, and like a whimper means a certain thing, or they have a guilty look. Humans think they understand, or they can really get what dogs are trying to say. Is that true, or are we fooling ourselves?
I mean, at some level, though they are communicating with us, we're not always good at interpreting what they're saying. So for instance, the guilty look is a great example. They look, you know the guilty look, right? When they put their ears back.
The slippers.
Right. But it turns out that look is actually just a response to us and our thinking that they've done something wrong. It's a submissive or appeasing behavior that they put on that's super cute, and there's a request to not be punished, and it usually works.
So they ate the slippers with no remorse. What about the tail wagging? I mean, that's obviously some kind of communication.
Yeah, and it's more than just a happiness, right? We think it's just happiness, but a low tail wag between the legs is anxiety or concern or nervousness, and a real high erect tail like a flag is if a dog is maybe interested in something off screen. And wants to go see.
Skipper has some good friends in the
Hi, Skip.
Dr. Horowitz, you run a dog cognition lab. What do you think is the main primary thing that us Homo sapiens don't understand or misunderstand about dogs?
I think we all miss that the way we see the world, dogs smell it. They're living in an olfactory kind of parallel universe to us, and although they're really good at fitting in to the human world, their world is more about smells. We should let them sniff things. We should appreciate that that's how they're seeing the world.
By the way, this is Annie. This is Skipper's human companion.
I have one more question about this licking, just to go back to that. Don't we have concerns about germs? I mean, dogs, especially in New York City, are out there, and their noses are to the ground, and they might be licking stuff outside, and they come and lick people's faces.
Yes. Well, I mean, certainly there are germs in their mouths, but they also are using a lick to get information about the world. So if it's not something really gross, right, they're getting information about you by licking you. It actually leads to a part of their nose, which is a second olfactory organ called the Jacobson's organ. So they're smelling you by licking you. And same with other dogs.
Doctor, I think you have probably one of the top 3 coolest jobs ever. And there's probably people watching right now wondering how they become you. How do you get into this line of research?
I mean, I did accidentally. I just started studying non-human animal minds, and dogs were a great subject to study, and then they got really interesting. So
they are really interesting.
Someone can follow that path.
Thank you so much. Just a PSA for Nate Burleson's wife. Look how wonderful Skipper is. Pet Nate a dog, please. All right, everyone, ahead. Grab your playbills. Tony's getting it on the nose right there, because you are going to love this next story. Anthony Mason shows us how Playbill is celebrating a major milestone and takes us inside the room where it happens. Did you get that Broadway reference, you guys? You're watching CBS Mornings Plus. Stay here.
I grew up with puppies.
You did.
Yeah.
If you've been lucky enough to see a Broadway show, you've probably taken home a Playbill. And I bet you didn't know this. The guidebook of the Greatest White Way, of the Great White Way, is celebrating its 140th anniversary this month. At its peak, Playbill prints 100,000 magazines a day.
Wow.
And our Anthony Mason and Playbill's COO take us inside the room where it happens. Playbill's printing plant in Queens, New York.
How old is this machine?
This machine here is actually, I believe it has its 40th birthday.
Wow. It's a beast.
It is, and it's our beast, and we love her.
So this is how you're celebrating your anniversary.
That's right.
And these are meant to mark different eras.
That's right. We have the golden age, 30s, 40s. So this is the 50s design, and then we have the 60s with the first showing of the yellow banner, and then we have the groovy 70s.
I love the groovy 70s.
Which was it's actually kind of a rare design.
Two things you notice right away when you come in here. The sound and the smell.
That's right.
You grew up with both.
That's correct. Each time I walk in here, that smell makes me feel like I'm, 8 years old.
You actually painted these walls as a kid.
I did, when I was 16. Sadly, the last time they were also painted, and I feel embarrassed by that. But it was a fun summer, and it really taught me the value of an N95.
He's funny.
It's funny. It's been in the family this is a third generation. That his grandfather took it over in the 70s. He was a printer. He ended up buying it, and it's run through the family now. And but it's 140 years. It's the oldest continually printing theater guide company in the world.
Amazing.
It's synonymous with Broadway.
It is. That's the thing. It's the one. It's the one thing you get free when you go into a Broadway theater. Because the tickets aren't cheap. That's for sure. Right?
Neither are the M&Ms.
No.
And you shut your phone off when you get there, so you are reading it. The bios are interesting.
And you look at most Instagram posts of people who've gone to the theater are literally holding up a playbill in front of the curtain.
Oh yeah, our executive producer does that all the time, Sean. I'm going to shout you out. Clark, why don't you get Shauna? She's running away.
She's a big theater geek over there. There we go.
And this piece definitely made me happy. I was curious about the Playbill, so thank you.
Right, it's one of those things that you just sort of take for granted. It's always there. You don't really think about it. Yeah. But I'm a sucker for a printing plant because I was the editor of my college paper. We were still doing hot type back in the day when it did. And this place looks pretty much like it did back in the 1980s.
What is hot type?
Hot type, well, long story, but basically they used to literally create type out of lead. And so you could actually feel the indentation of your name and the newspaper when they printed. They don't do that
That's
anymore.
back when soda cost a nickel.
Thank you for being here.
Anthony, lovely piece. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Ahead, remember old school flip phones? Well, they're gaining in popularity again, and we set out to find out why. I know why. I
want one.
This is CBS Mornings Plus.
A little Lady Gaga for you today. Remember back in the early 2000s when we all had those old school flip phones? Turns out they are making a comeback. Major phone companies say many Americans want to ditch their smartphones for so-called dumb phones.
Yep.
Some cell phone makers have even come up with new models of these iconic flip and brick phones to help those who want to live a little more simply. Jolene Kent explains.
We've all done it.
I cannot go to bed without looking for at least 2 hours on my phone.
My husband goes to the bathroom, my phone whops out, and I'm scrolling on Instagram unnecessarily.
Now, many are fed up and calling for a flip back.
Yeah.
To simpler time.
Who are you?
A growing number of Americans are ditching their smartphones for old school dumb phones.
Remember those epic hang-ups? Oh yeah. They're back.
In 2021, dumb phone sales made up under 1% of the mobile phone market. In 2022, it doubled to 2%, accounting for more than 6 million Americans. Daisy Krigbon and Will Stoltz found themselves each spending around 6 hours a day on their smartphones. So 2 years ago, the couple decided to go dumb.
When was the moment that you realized, okay, I have a big problem with technology?
When it prevented me from sleeping for years on end.
For me, it's when I realized I would go to a social setting and I would want to leave the room just to be on my phone, whether I sneak into the bathroom and just sit and scroll.
Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter, or now X.
But finding a simpler phone was harder than they thought.
We weirdly found it so confusing to get off a smartphone since there's so not much information, and that's when we got the idea we should just create a one-stop shop.
So they converted their East Los Angeles dining room into a new business, Dumb Wireless.
I'd say the most popular right now is the Light Phone 2. It's this little e-ink phone.
That's cute.
It's just talk and text and a couple other simple tools, but people love the e-ink screen.
Stoltz and Krigbaum both admit switching to a dumb phone is hard for most customers at first, but they believe something has got to change.
Is it a radical move to switch from a smartphone to a dumb phone?
I think it's radical to hand your life over to any phone, a smartphone. I think that's pretty radical. This isn't the next step for everybody, but this is a next step, and we hope that more and more people will take it.
Joe King joins us now, it appears.
On the phone. Hey, Joe, can you hear us?
I gotta go. Hold on. Did you hear that?
Who are you talking to at 6 a.m. in Los Angeles?
Yeah, it's very early out there.
My colleague Jamie in New York, obviously.
Obviously. So that phone actually works.
Yeah, so guys, this is my husband's flip phone, and I got it for him. We have a no gift policy, yes. And Adriana, you know this. We don't exchange gifts, but for his 40th birthday, he asked for a flip phone, and he uses it on the weekend. And what he does is he texts me on my smartphone, and he says, I'm going flip. And he gets on the flip phone, he takes it with him, he's running around with the kids, we're doing errands. And if I really need him, I just text him on the flip phone or I call him on it.
I love it, Joe.
And he loves
Shout out
it.
to
The
Scott
direct
Conroy.
quote is,
oh, Joe, I'm going to stop you right there.
It
We
makes
have some
your
breaking
brain work
news.
better.
Sorry, Joe. Stand by. We've got some breaking news we want to get to quickly, but stay right there. What is it? Joe Link Kent is about to go on maternity leave.
Joe Link Kent, congratulations.
Congratulations, Joe. We're going to miss you so much.
Mom-to-be for third time over. And look, we got a father of 4 here who's going to say congratulations with us. Mr. John Legend.
Congratulations.
You guys. Thank you.
Joe, John Legend wanted to say congratulations to you, too. I don't know if you can see the return screen there.
Hello, Joe Ling.
Legend? Oh, my God. I
Congratulations. We're going to miss you.
She said, I love your wife. I think she meant to say, I love you.
No, trust me, I get it everywhere I go. Everywhere I go.
Congrats, Joe. We love you.
I'm such a fan. Thank you both, Adriana, Tony. You're the best. And Shauna, thank you guys. I'm going to miss you. I'll be watching with pride and cheering you guys on. And I'll be back before you know it.
We're gonna miss you. Raise another CBS Mornings viewer. Thank you very much. Have fun.
All right, Joe, we love you.
I will. You got it. Thank you, guys.
Best of Scott,
and for those of you at home,
you too.
stay with us. John Legend will be next for our CBS Mornings Deals Plus.
This guy.
Oh, my God. Oh.
I'm happy to say it's time for CBS Mornings Deals in our Plus Hour. And today, products that have one thing in common. They are all from acclaimed singer John Legend's skincare line, and they're all available at exclusive discounts. If you want to start shopping right now, just scan that QR code on your screen, upper left-hand corner, or visit CBSDeals.com. John Legend joins us now, along with Knocking's lifestyle expert Elizabeth Werner.
Hello.
Good morning to you both.
Good morning, Tony.
Glad to have you back in the Plus Hour, John.
Yes.
So, the loved one.
Yes.
You created this because you wanted something to solve your own problems?
Well, you know, I love skincare, and I've been working with skincare brands for years, but I felt like there was a need for more skincare that was actually affordable, performed really well, was really effective, but was accessible and affordable for everybody. And so we developed Loved One. Everything's at price points that everybody can afford. A lot of our products focus on moisture and hydration, so they're perfect for the winter as we're going into a colder, some would say ashier season.
Well, you would say, on that point.
Not if they have this. Not if they have this.
And, and you need your loved one to combat that.
That's
on
right.
that point, you said you had melanin-enriched skin in mind, but it's for everybody else.
It's for everybody because everybody needs moisture and hydration. But what we found was when we targeted melanin-rich skin for development and for our testing, that it ended up making a product that was great for everybody. And so we're excited that it works so well for everybody.
So you curated for us, for the
Yes.
CBS family,
3 bundles that people can bring home. They can separate them as gifts. They could give them as gifts. They could give for themselves. So we'll start off with the moisture layering.
Yes.
And the very first product, which is your wife's favorite.
Chrissy's favorite.
Yes, this is an exfoliator.
Yes.
And this exfoliator actually utilizes bamboo.
The bamboo.
And when you rub that in, you're going to feel the little soft,
yeah, I
gentle.
feel that.
But it also has rosehip oil.
Yes.
It has
it
sea
smells good.
buckthorn oil. So a lot of great moisturizers. So even though you're exfoliating, you're not stripping the skin.
You're not stripping your skin.
Exactly.
So we want every product, even when you're cleansing, to make you feel silky smooth. And
Right.
so all of our products really focus on hydration.
And this one has more. I mean, we've got the moisturizer for the body.
This
We've
is
got,
my favorite.
And the oil is my favorite. I use this on my skin. I use it for my hair, my cuticles, that little elbow. So this moisturizing set, it's $38. It's about $12. About
meditating with
$12.
No, it's-
It smells really good.
really good.
Okay,
Some-
John, I
sometimes
wanted
you
to-
need that self-care
Yes,
moment.
you do.
Yeah.
It's like aromatherapy.
Yes.
And then when you're shaving, you
Yes.
don't want the razor burn, the bumps, the discomfort.
Yes.
Whether you're male, female, this is all good for you.
It's good for your legs, good for your face,
Yes.
good for everything.
So we're going to exfoliate. We're going to use a shaving cream that's like a cloud on your face.
Yes.
So soft, so nurturing. And then, of course, we've got our toning mist, and this has witch hazel and chamomile
Aloe.
and lavender.
It's
This-
very calming for your skin.
Delicious. Calms it right down. And
Yes.
then winter. So as we get to winter, like you
Winter is
said,
coming.
we don't want to be the ashy.
Yes.
So we start off with this really amazing cleansing bar.
Yes.
And it doesn't strip away my own oil.
It has a beautiful lather. It has a natural scent, and it's very
smell.
it's very gentle on your skin, and it's just a great cleansing bar, and all of it moisturizing.
Moisturizing.
hydrating.
So, John, my husband actually uses your product.
Amazing.
Hey.
Whoa.
Product is the
You married
exfoliating.
well.
I did. So
Exfoliate.
did you.
And it's good for you too.
Yes. Oh,
so you might want to borrow some
Every
of your
once in a
husband's.
while.
Yes.
But it's a true story that, people love this stuff.
And,
Yes.
and your wife uses it, it's for body
She
also.
uses our exfoliating cleanser.
That's
She
right.
loves it. She uses our shave cream. She loves that too.
Yes.
Our whole family uses our moisturizer. I make sure the kids, when they're going out to school, nobody's ashy when they
No.
leave the house.
There you go.
Elbows are taken care of.
All of them. And this one is $34.
His hands look like they've never been used
Yeah. So, John, you haven't
Baby
lost a dish in your life. Let me feel how
Silky.
soft your hands are.
The soft-handed John
And I
Legend.
do wash
the
dishes
soft-handed
sometimes.
Elizabeth Warner. Thank you very much to
Thank
both
you.
of you. We do partner with all these companies to get these deals. To buy anything you saw on your screen, scan that QR code upper left or visit cbsdeals.com.
That does it for us. We'll see you tomorrow on CBS Mornings Plus.